Hi everybody, it's Ann again with Kai Dragon Gardening and Cooking Channel, and I'm going to talk to you a little more about tearing down those garden beds when you're getting ready for the winter months. So without further ado, here we go. Now, I said in another video I was tearing down these Roma tomatoes right now, and as you can see, I've got lots of little green tomatoes still growing on there. And some of them are laying here in the bed. I am putting these in boxes. Going to try and slowly ripen them. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what does happen if you don't get everything out of that garden bed when you go to covering things back up. Like I said, I use a lot of straw mulch. I'll be putting some more mulch down, but I want to go through this and kind of sift through. I do have a few little strawberry plants that we had planted under the tomatoes, and they're going to be fine. Just going to put a little more straw on top of them to protect them a little better. But what can happen is, say I was to leave these and just cover them, then what happens over the winter time when things start to break down naturally, because when you're using straw and leaves and a little bit of dirt, you're making a compost. Your worms are going to come up from the ground and they're going to make that all rich soil again. But if you leave stuff like that in the ground, chances are, it doesn't always happen, but they could reseed themselves and Roma tomatoes could sprout back up in this garden bed. Now, I don't care if that happened because I really like the Roma tomatoes. There's so many uses for Roma tomatoes, and it's something that we'll plant again next year. But I want to use the bed for something else, and I want to do some crop rotation. So I want to make sure that I get everything out of there that doesn't need to be in there, because I don't want a seed falling in there. And I will use an example. There was a garden that I made at my friend's house last year. We left a couple of the tomato plants in the ground, and they had the wire cages around them and stuff, because there were so many red birds there. We had a bird sanctuary, and we had anywhere from 14 to 16 male and female redbirds that would visit, especially during the winter months when we were feeding them and watering them. Water is very, very important, more so probably during the fall and winter months than it is during the spring and summer. And they were just always in there, and I wanted them to be well protected, so we left those plants. Some of the plant branches were actually on the ground. Well, next year during the spring, my friend didn't think anything of it, and he went out to go mow and noticed that he had some small yellow tomatoes growing, and they were sweet as could be. And he said, "Hey, I didn't have to plant any tomatoes. Those tomatoes you left in the ground for the redbirds resprouted and come back up on their own." Now, I don't know if they'll do that again next year, because he's going to leave them again for the redbirds. But it's just an example of what can happen if you leave that stuff in the ground. So you want to get it out of there if you don't want that same thing growing in that particular area or garden bed. Another thing I like to do is plant lots of marigolds in every garden bed. I sprinkle the seeds. It doesn't matter where they fall and where they sprout up, because they are a great deterrent and trap crop to get rid of a lot of the pesky insects that we don't want bothering our fruit. However, some people firmly believe that if you have this type of thing in your garden bed and you go into the winter, that it's going to take over your garden bed next year, and that you're going to have marigolds sprouting up all over the place and have to pull them. They make a lot of seeds. As I said before in one of my videos, if you take one spent seed and you open it up, those are all seeds for marigolds. So it's possible that it could take over a garden bed. So if you don't want the possibility of a plant like that taking over your bed, then make sure that you're getting all of that stuff out of there once it gets to where the temperatures are going to be too cold for the marigolds to survive anymore. And just go ahead and pull them. You can always plant the seeds again next year wherever you want them. Or, do like me, thin them out after they start growing. Whatever works for you. But marigolds and nasturtiums, they're kind of a must-have in the garden to keep a lot of the different bugs away from the plants that you want to eat. So I do have some daikon radishes that got a late start, and I've thinned them, and I'm going to thin them again. I'm going to cover them up with a tarp and try to make a makeshift greenhouse to see if I can keep them alive at least another 30 days. But we'll be doing an experiment with that. But I did want to just make sure to remind you that marigolds can take over a garden area if you don't get them out of there. So if you're not real sure that you want them in there, make sure that you're pulling the whole plant. Just pop this spent flowers off and put them in a container where they can dry, and then you'll have a bunch of seeds that you can plant for next year and put them anywhere you want in the garden. So that's another little quick tip for you that I wanted to bring up. Just making sure that you are removing the fruit and the flowers and stuff from the bed if you don't want them to decide to plant themselves next year, and you go, well, how'd that tomato plant get there? I didn't plant it there. Or I didn't plant those marigolds. Why are they there? So it's just something to consider. Make sure to check everything really good. Give it a once over and make sure you're satisfied with what you have tore down for the winter. Anyway, just another quick tip so you're not overwhelmed next spring. And we hope when you're cleaning out your garden for the winter that you're planning ahead for how you want to do things next year, and that you have a very wonderful rest of the year and a great start to the next year. So make sure to hit the notification bell so you know when we release more videos. And we'll be covering up the green stalks because we have a lot of mint and different types of spices in there. And so all I have to do for the winter is just cover this up really good. And they do sell covers, but I kind of waited too long, so I'm going to use a heavy tarp and some frost cloth, and it should be fine. So, and the ground is settled, so next year it's probably going to get revamped a little bit so it's not leaning. Anyway, you guys like, share, subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and remember, we appreciate you so much. Thanks for watching.